Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to week 4. This is David Jones at Tenacious D Jones on Twitter, here with Jason Mizrahi and Stix Picks to break down the week 4 DFS slate at Win Daily Sports. If you're not signed up for Win Daily Sports yet, go over and do that using promo code SICKO, 50% off all the packages. You can choose any package you want. You can go get the bets, you can get the DFS content, season-long stuff. I don't know, projections seem pretty good. We'll take a look this week where we're going to land. I'm feeling like shit. I don't know about about Nick, but we're both kind of sick, and I was on a bender last night for the absolutely awesome Alabama game. So roll tide, everyone out there that stayed up and watched that. What an electric atmosphere that was. Jason Mizrahi is going to be with us today. What's up, man? Tell us how you're feeling about this slate.
Good slate, man. I got a lot of props locked in, so I've been shopping props all week, like you guys know. So got about 15 props, got a lot of action there. Feeling good about a couple ladder bets. I want to discuss everything else with you guys. Seems like a pretty clear slate. There's a couple games that I like, a couple games I'm just crossing off. So should be an easy go round. Everything breaks the right way. We should be in a good spot this weekend, man.
You are you playing who's playing the millionaire, the 555? I'm sure you are, Sticks. You playing that thing? You
Well,
and Jay, I know you won a $4,000 ticket. They don't have that contest this week. You jumping in these millionaire makers?
Definitely in the big board, the $20 one. I gotta see how I feel after finishing off lineups. I didn't make too many lineups this week, man. I got like a couple that I locked in. I'm gonna tinker with you guys now, and then I'll probably jump in some single entry, the $100, $300, possibly the $500. See what's going on.
Yeah, when we're done, I have a feeling like you're going to be jumping in these millie makers. That's how it goes. Like we talk through, it, and you're like, that is a good play. I'm going to do that. I'm going to win $1 million. We're going to go through quarterbacks, running backs, wide receivers, tight ends, and then we'll do our plays of the week. Let's start it off with Stix Picks, taking us through his quarterback selections.
all right, cash games. I think it's pretty easy on the cash side of things, which at Win Daily Sports so far, I believe we are 3 for 3 on the cash game core being fantastic. So I'm excited to keep that rolling. Starting with Kyler Murray or Jaden Daniels, all the ownership is going to be there, and for good reason. These are dual threat quarterbacks in the highest total game on the slate. So that's probably where I would recommend. I'm going Kyler Murray in cash on DraftKings. On FanDuel, Justin Fields is damn near free. So for the rushing upside there, I get it. In tournaments, David, I don't think you want to hear me say it again. I don't know if this is me being sick. Even since Friday, I was fucking up the podcast a lot. I called Zach Ertz my cash game quarterback when clearly I meant tight end. I'm going to Deshaun Watson. Everybody, I don't understand. Looking at that defense last week, it's worse now. Max Crosby's out. There's a lot of injuries for Las Vegas. I think they got a linebacker out too. I got that written down somewhere here, but pass rate over expectation for Cleveland is high. They play insanely fast. You know where the ball is going. We've seen Amari Cooper come to life. Deshaun Watson and Amari Cooper sounds like a very low-owned stack. And then, unfortunately, I am playing a ton of chalk this week. So Deshaun Watson is my GPP quarterback. The only other guy I considered is very gross too is Trevor Lawrence. And then honorable mention pay up in tournaments would be CJ Stroud for me.
Okay. Yeah, I'm not. It's hard for me to get on Watson, but all the injuries that Vegas is dealing with, I mean, what you're saying makes sense, right? We loved Cooper last week. It looked like he was just going to break the slate completely wide open after that first fumble recovery and then touchdown immediately for Amari Cooper. I believe he scored the first touchdown on the slate. It's a good pairing if you want to go Watson, or just take the Watson points with Cooper if you want to do that. I'm not as high on Cooper this week, but I like him. Not my top guy, but we'll get into wide receivers. Jay, where are you going to go with your quarterbacks here?
Yeah, quarterbacks up top, Kyler and Jaden Daniels. I think they're the clear, obvious play. I wasn't on Kyler last week as much because I respect the Detroit defense, but in this week, it's like perfect setup. Look, if it plays out 100 times, I think this game shoots out. Washington defense, terrible. Arizona defense, not so great. Daniels is scoring on almost every drive for the past couple of weeks. He's actually a legitimate, professional quarterback. So he's not just running. He is running. You get like a 50-yard rushing floor. He's going to push the ball because I think Kyler's going to score on Washington as well. Similar to that Cincinnati game, I'm seeing the same situation here. So Kyler, Jaden, I think are very safe plays on the slate. They're both going to run, and they both have upside, and they're both playing in a high over-under. So pretty safe there. No Jalen Hurts to me. I like Burrow and Andy Dalton. I think that matchup, C and I were talking about it yesterday. Another great matchup. Two defenses are not good. You got a revenge factor for Dalton. He's cheap. Everybody kind of got off him last week. Some people are on him this week. So I do think Burrow and Dalton both in play. Outside of that, I do think Justin Fields could get there. I don't love the upside. I like the run game and just getting Pickens instead. But at 5,500 on DraftKings, I think it's a fair play. I know Sia like Caleb Williams as well at 5,600. I think he's in play. Not really on the Lawrence play. If he goes off, I'll sleep easy tonight. Not really stressing it. And I was joking around with Sia yesterday. Dude made a spin move when nobody was there, like trying to sack him. It was just kind of comical. The other day, I do think CJ Stroud hasn't had that CJ Stroud game as he had last year. So I think there's some upside there for Stroud if Jacksonville can keep up. We're gonna like Nico. We probably like some Stephon Diggs. I think he's in play as well. But that's pretty much it for me, man. There's some good defenses out there today. I'm looking at Stix's projections out. Justin Fields #1 on value, Watson 2. Kyler, Jaden, 3-4. I'm not really going to Jordan Love. I respect the Minnesota defense. So Caleb Williams, Andy Dalton, those would be the cheap guys. And then for like a low-owned play, I do think CJ Stroud can possibly get there.
Okay. All right. So a lot of the guys you just talked about there are on my article. I have Kyler Murray ranked #1, right? Like, you don't have to get into it too deep about how bad that Commanders' defense has been, right? One of the worst pass defenses in the league. Actually, the worst if you're just looking by fantasy points, 41.1. Fantasy points allowed to wide receivers, 25.4. Allowed to quarterbacks, that's the worst in both categories. They're ranked 30th against wide receiver 1, which is going to be Marvin Harrison Jr., 24th against wide receiver 2, 31st against wide receiver 3 via DVOA. So one or two of these guys paired up with Kyler Murray, maybe even 3. Like, I was thinking about that Stroud game last year where he hit the optimal milli maker with 3 wide receivers, and you kind of have the Arizona guys priced where you can do it pretty easily. So something to think about there. Also kind of a revenge game for the Commanders coming into Arizona, bringing Ertz and Cliff Kingsbury back to where they used to play. Just something to think about. My quarterbacks are all listed on the article, windailysports.com, but I have it Murray, Dalton, Burrow, Daniels, then Justin Fields. He's the first man out for me, but Dalton, yeah, revenge game, whatever, looks sharp, kind of slinging it around like he doesn't care anymore. Like that, pairing him up with Johnson, obviously. Joe Burrow, guy that almost won me $1 million one time. I think it's a good spot for him, clearly going up against Carolina. You might want to focus on the run game there. You can focus on the pass game. Doesn't matter. Terrible defense. That game hopefully will be fun to watch. Hopefully it will be a shootout. Weird to say in a Carolina matchup, but we saw what they did last week. So I think that's good for quarterbacks here. If y'all have questions, you can go drop them into the premium Discord on Win Daily Sports or whatever you're doing here on YouTube. Let's go over to running backs. Let's start with Stix. Where you at on running backs? You mentioned you're playing some chalk, so I imagine this might be the spot.
Yeah, I'm probably going to take the value in Chuba Hubbard and Najee Harris. There's just really no one behind him. The only issue with Hubbard, I think he'd be the guy that I would lean to fade, is we are seeing a little bit of Miles Sanders inside the 10, inside the 5. Not sure if he's considered their goal line running back or what they're doing there, but Canales has been tough to read on that situation. So with Najee, it's a great matchup against the Colts. I don't think he leaves the field at all. We'll probably see a little more Cordero Patterson, but if I'm paying up, it's probably Breece Hall. I do like Bijan Robinson a lot, but I think Breece Hall against Denver is just an absolute smash spot. And then, do you guys have any interest? Like, I fear I don't have enough Zach Moss, but I'm okay faking Zach Moss. I think James Conner, Jay, you talked about it a little bit, probably the easiest play in that game if you're fading the passing attack. Do we have any love for Roschon Johnson at 4,100 to open things up? Or is that pure coach speak? 1, I don't think their offensive line is good. 2, I've never thought Roschon Johnson is good. So even if you're 4,100, if you only get 7 points, you don't really help anybody.
Yeah, see, that's what I was looking at. Only 4,100, right? I mean, is he going to completely take over the RB1? I don't think so. I mean, so you're probably looking at, what you saw last week. It might even be worse because he caught 4 targets he got 4 receptions on 5 targets, but 4,100, like, it makes sense, right? It's like a Cam Akers play from last week because Cam Akers, touched the ball 9 times or something like that, 9 attempts, I believe.
Yeah.
I don't
Brian
know.
Robinson Jr., though, I did forget him, Prasan. Thank you for bringing that up. I think that's also similar to Najee, a guy that's probably never going to leave the field. And you do have Jaden Daniels with the RPO, like, opening things up for Brian Robinson, because there will be a spy on Jaden Daniels if 70% of the snaps out there today. So I am okay with that. I just fear, again, like, that's a great game environment. I have nothing wrong to say about Brian Robinson Jr. Roll Tide.
There you go. Yeah, I added him in the Sunday morning update on my article today. He's the first guy I put in. Firmly in play as your RB2. Price is nice. He'll be on the field the entire time, like you said. So I do like Brian Robinson Jr. The guys that I wrote up that I'm mainly interested in here are, well, first off, you know what? I want to go back to Chuba Hubbard. I want to ask you this, Stix. Why? Like, I don't really understand why people are on Chuba Hubbard. He had a good game last week. It's his first good game in like 2.5 years. Like, I don't really get it. Can someone explain that to me? You're muted.
Stix, you're muted.
See, I'm telling you, I'm not on my A game. For me, it's just the volume in the passing game. I think this game goes back and forth. It has one of the highest projected paces in the 80 model. It's not great. I'm with you, man. Like, if there's anybody that I want to fade, it's Chuba. I just don't know really how I could afford. It's like, okay, maybe actually looking at your article, you like Diggs. So it's like my main lineup has Nico and Chuba. If I get off Nico, go to Diggs, I can go Chuba up to Brian Robinson. Is that something that we want to sign off on? Brian Robinson just seems so much sexier than Chuba Hubbard. Because, like, Chuba Hubbard probably a floor of 12 and his ceiling was last week. And I don't think he hits a ceiling game very often. Just seems like someone that's going to get 12 to 14 points. And that's it, when Brian Robinson can get 20 plus for $400 more.
Yeah, I like Brian Robinson more for sure. Let's go through my running backs real quick, then we'll go over to Jay. I wrote up Aaron Jones. I like Aaron Jones a lot. Does it have anything to go with going back to Green Bay? A little bit. I guess he's the guy who shows up in these big matches when he wears his sombrero. He gets the primetime games. He is also kind of a narrative guy too. Like, some bad stuff is happening in that dude's life, and then he goes out and scores a lot of touchdowns. If you remember that 3 or 4 on Monday Night Football, I want to say, and it was a tragedy. Doesn't matter. Shouldn't have brought that up. Packers ranked 20th in DVOA against the run while allowing 25.3 DraftKings points per game to the running back. Jones averages 5.4 yards per carry. Third best rate for starting running backs. There's some quarterbacks with better numbers. There's some RB2s with better numbers, but he's only behind J.K. Dobbins and Saquon Barkley in yards per carry. He's going to get his 15 or 20. He'll be in the passing game. Probably going to need him in the passing game in this one, depending on how it goes, right? But he also has seen the second most targets on the team over the past 2 weeks, only behind Justin Jefferson. So get you some Aaron Jones. I know the wide receiver room's a little bit healthier there, so maybe they don't rely on him in the pass game as much, but I don't see why you wouldn't when it's been working. Aaron Jones, 6,400, like him a lot. Like Jordan Mason, I'll go back to him after a bit of a letdown last week. The offense is put back together for the 49ers. You can't focus so much on the running game as they were able to do last week. So Debo's back, Ayuk, Kittle, Jennings is going to be there. You have to show respect to the pass. Jordan Mason, we know he's been phenomenal. He has the most carries in the NFL right now. His salary is too low, $6,700. I think he scores once or twice. I think he's a great play. People might be off him a little bit after what happened last week, but his ownership still shows that it's pretty high. So I like Jordan Mason. Those are my top 2 guys. I've got others I can talk about, but I want to throw it over to Jay, see if he brings them up.
Yeah, so running backs, I think you come out and really focus on lineup construction, because every running back that we just mentioned, they're really good plays. For me, if I'm not playing a Jaden Daniels lineup, I'll push more towards Brian Robinson, because I want to get, safe plays or opportunities in that game. But you could be concerned that maybe Jaden Daniels steals Brian Robinson's, touchdown. So in lineups you don't play Brian Robinson, maybe go with the Jaden Daniels lineup. Not worried so much that somebody vultures, James Conner. I think he's pretty safe. Same thing with Aaron Jones. Aaron Jones, I think, is like my one kind of leverage play. I don't see too many people on him. Spoke about it a lot. He loves Green Bay. I can almost guarantee, without guaranteeing it, he'll have a Lambeau Leap today. Whatever that's worth for you. He's going to be out there. and it's going to happen. It's written already. Kind of like the Mets will blow it today. He'll be in the end zone sometime today. So I think I really like, the Aaron Jones play. I like Connor a bunch. It's just real great opportunities for both those guys. I think Dave made a great point. Everybody's going to have that bad taste in the mouth when they loaded up like 60 to 70% Jordan Mason. And now this week, he's like the same price. Nice matchup with, all the weapons back. So he'll probably score a touchdown or two today, and they'll probably be winning by 14. So game script, I think the Rams are definitely a better team than New England. So Mason definitely in play there. Kyron Williams, I'm not playing him, but he's always going to be a good play, great play every day of the week. Same thing with Bijan and Saquon Barkley. Like, you can play any of those three guys in your lineup. I'd prefer them three over Breece Hall, just because I think Breece Hall, there is possibilities that Braylon Allen steals some touches. I don't think that happens with Kyron, Saquon, or Bijan. Outside of that, you guys mentioned everybody I pretty much like. I think Hubbard is definitely fadeable, especially if you're going to go out there and, play Deontay Johnson. You're just hoping Deontay gets in, or, one of the other wide receivers, or like Stix will hope for a tight end will get in. Zach Moss, he's okay, but I'd rather just go and get Chase or get T. Higgins instead. And the only one that Stix kind of put me on, and I think is maybe sneaky, but I don't think you need to get there. I got him in the prop market, is Jerome Ford. I'll throw his name out there. Like, they should be up 2 touchdowns. He's going to get most of the work there. If he scores 2 touchdowns at like 4% ownership, would I be shocked? Probably not. And he's cheap. Like, I'd rather go that 5K to 6K range. Hubbard, Ford, Connor, Moss, Aaron Jones, Jordan Mason, and Najee Harris. Like, that's where you should be living. That's what the model says. That's what the game scripts say. It makes perfect sense to stay in that zone and just mix and match, man. Hope that you have that right combination in your lineups.
Stix, what are we going to do with Saquon Barkley, right? We've got A.J. Brown out. We've got Devontae Smith out. Is Tampa just going to completely sell out to, bracket up Goddard and then stop Saquon at the line? How's that going to play out?
That is what I'm doing. I mean, it's kind of the same situation that Josh Jacobs had a couple weeks ago, and I'm just out. Usually when it's a stack box, I think that is worrisome. I know Saquon's going to be insanely involved in the pass game, so like I get the floor there. I think he's more of a cash play, but at that price, it's just going to be a fade for me in general. I'd rather have Breece.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I'm still, when you're going to get the volume out of Saquon like that, you want to get some, and the offensive line is so good behind him that maybe they can make the push. But I could also see that game being one of the first ones to end, because we know that the Eagles are going to be having to run it. They don't have any good pass catchers out there aside from Dallas Goedert, who, again, the defense is going to be all over. It's going to take some of these scrubs like Paris Campbell or Johnny Wilson having to do something at Mid-Sally, which they're going to catch some balls. You got to throw the ball. We'll get into them, I guess, some value wide receivers if we want to. I think we covered the running back pretty good here.
For sure.
Those are the guys. Joe Mixon is out, by the way. Wide receivers. Let's go over to Stix. Where are we going wide receiver?
I think first off, just something that I'm prioritizing this week is getting one of Nico Collins or Stephon Diggs in every one of my lineups. In cash, it's going to be one of those two. I think I'm leaning Nico right now. In tournaments, after you did talk some sense into me about Chuba Hubbard not really being that good at football and Brian Robinson only being $400 more, I think I'll probably pivot Nico down to Stephon Diggs. I think he's very safe. He's got, a Vegas market saying about 6 catches. I think that's what we got him projected for in the 80 model, which the volume is very similar to Nico. The only issue there is, for some reason, Jacksonville plays a ton of man coverage without having the personnel to do it. And that is like a damn near 40% expected target share for Nico Collins. So if he's good to go, like Nico Collins is certainly someone that could break the slate. So one of him or Diggs is very important for me. I love Jamar Chase. You kind of wrote about T. Higgins, which I think is a very, very interesting pivot. He did have 90% of the snaps last week, so they let him go. Obviously, they needed to. That was a pretty pass-heavy script, but that may be the case today in Carolina. But it would not surprise me if Cincinnati, rights the ship here, and this is a big Zach Moss game, and Jamar Chase just isn't worth 7,700 with J.C. Horn there. But I do think J.C. Horn he's going to have a tough time with Jamar Chase and his route running. Rashee Rice, I'm not really interested. I think I'll probably play him in cash at like 20% ownership. I'll leave it at that. I don't think it's a ceiling game when the total's 39 points. Other than that, man, I love Amari Cooper. I kind of wrote, if you want to hear my breakdown on Amari Cooper, I think I talked about him for 5 minutes on the First and Stix pod. So before lock, if you want to check that out. Not really feeling Terry McLaurin, but I talked to Jay about this, and this is like the hardest decision for me is Jamar Chase or Marvin Harrison Jr. And Jay just said it's Washington. And everybody is getting massive games against Washington. Wide receiver one started with Mike Evans. David was on the ball there with week 1 Tampa Bay Bucks. Week 2, I forgot who played him, but it was Malik Neighbors, right? That was the game.
He was week 3 probably.
Week 3 or whatever, and then Jamar Chase
whatever it was,
Washington. So every wide receiver one's killing Washington. You would assume Marvin Harrison Jr. has a crazy tick up in targets with no Trey McBride. My fear, and I don't know if it's accurate, is do they double Marvin Harrison because there's no Trey McBride? Like Trey McBride is a very talented pass catcher, and him not being there, I would assume that Washington's like, all right, we cannot keep getting our ass kicked by wide receiver ones. Like stack the box a little bit, and if Michael Wilson or Greg Dortch beat us, then I'm okay with that. But James Conner and Marvin Harrison are not going to beat us. If I'm the defensive coordinator, that's what I'm doing. But play of the week, I think, I don't even know what his price is Ryan Williams from Alabama. I think you just want to lock him in every single lineup you possibly could because that guy's a stud.
Yeah, that was great. Real good time for me last night. Hey, so if you're going to fade Harrison, right, if you're worried about him getting doubled, which, that could happen, but it's like,
He's still really good.
He's still really good, but why wouldn't they have done that with Chase? Why wouldn't they have done that with Nate? Like, are they capable of doing that? I don't know. That
especially like the Giants, right? It's literally only neighbors because Wan'Dale Robinson is not going to beat you all day long. Maybe, death by 1,000 paper cuts. But yeah, maybe Marvin Harrison's going to go to the core play for me. Well, if you had to choose up top, Jamar Chase or Marvin Harrison, what are you boys doing?
I'm playing Marvin Harrison.
I think the answer to that question is Harrison. Chase, look, he got those 2 touchdowns, but they're feeding Josevich, and T. Higgins probably gets more targets this game. Gesicki's involved. The other tight end all is involved too. So I'd want to say Chase is the more talented dude, and Burrow's the better quarterback here. But I think you lean Harrison just because, there's more opportunities to go his way, and they can be down more. I can see Carolina not hanging with Cincinnati in a very must-win spot for them too. So that's the other problem. So I probably lean Harrison. I do got lineups with Harrison and Jamar Chase, and then you don't get Nico Collins, which is a problem. I'm assuming you guys are going to mention Deontay Johnson at the same price as he was last week. Like, are you
He's not.
Are you locking him in?
More. No, Deontay Johnson, I have no interest in at all.
Okay.
Not even a little bit.
Let's talk this out. DJ, you have no interest on Deontay? You fading him, or what are you doing with his price tag? He's just at 5,600.
He was 49 last week. That's when you play him.
I didn't play him last week. I mean, I wrote him up. I mean, look, you don't have Thielen anymore. Fine, whatever. Still Adam Thielen. But Andy Dalton, isn't he just going to do like what
Pepper
worked last week? I mean, he threw the ball to him 14 times, 122 yards. It's still Deontay Johnson. Like, people are always too high on Deontay Johnson. But it's like, okay, now you have to go beat Cincinnati. What are you going to completely rewrite everything that worked when you got the Panthers' first win in 365 days? The defense was terrible for the Bengals. I mean, Washington scored on every single time that they had the ball in offense last Thursday or Monday or whatever it was. So, yeah, I mean, I guess I just hope that he keeps doing what worked last time. Andy Dalton's smart enough to do that. Now, you could get the rookie more involved, sure, or Tommy Trimble or, one of these tight ends or Mingo or whoever it's going to be, but I don't see why you wouldn't do that. I don't like Chuba, whoever. I don't like him. So they're going to have to move the ball some way, and I think you just keep throwing it to Johnson, man. I don't know. Why are you not interested at all? Just because the price?
30% ownership. I feel like George Pickens is a much better tournament play. Deontay's fine in cash. I don't think this is a ceiling game for him. I'd rather have Pickens. I'd rather have Brian Thomas Jr. I'd rather have Christian Kirk.
Yeah, those are all good pivots. Stix, I'm not going to discount the pivots. And the one thing I'll lean on your side, he does have somewhat of a hamstring injury. We don't know what that really is.
That
Like that
too.
would be a concern for me. And at the end of the day, it is Andy Dalton. Like I didn't really expect him to come out firing, for 300 yards and doing what he did last week to Deontay. So like he could just regress back to Andy Dalton, and Deontay Johnson could just be Deontay Johnson. Maybe gets no touchdown and doesn't go over 100 yards, and one of these young kids come up. So I get it. I think it's not a bad fade. I think I'd feel more comfortable
To simplify this, do we want to
fade Chuba or fade Deontay? Like it's one of the two, right?
Fucking both. Like DJ spoke a lot of like truth back into my mind. Like, do we want to play any Carolina Panther in a tournament that's 30% owned? The answer is no. Hard no. No. I'm off Chuba now to go to Brian Robinson. You boys should get off Deontay Johnson in tournaments and go to George Pickens or one of these.
Yeah, I got Pickens. Yeah, I got Pickens in. I think Pickens is a good spot. I do think Kirk. I was looking at his prop all week. Haven't bet it yet, so maybe I'll bet that. It's it's a nice number on him. I do got to ask you guys about T. Higgins. What do you guys want to do with T. Higgins? I think there's some thoughts there to go out and if he caught that touchdown last week, maybe chase it and get two. He's involved. We got to talk about him. DJ, you mentioned Stephon Diggs, definitely in play. And then what are we doing with Terry McLaurin? I know Sia was kind of pumping the brakes on Terry because he didn't get many of targets. He got the big targets, got the big play. He's 5,800. And then Arizona, are you going to Michael Wilson? Are we drop into, the tight end instead? Those are the other spots. And I'm off the Vegas train. Like, I don't know if I want to really go to – I don't want to go to Myers. Tucker at the price tag makes sense, but I don't think I'm going to pay up for Myers against Cleveland, so I do respect that. Stix, I know you're kind of on Tucker for value, I believe, but before you go to Tucker, Arizona-wise, if you're not playing Marvin Harrison, do you prefer, Dortch, Wilson, or the tight end in Higgins?
I will never.
If you don't go Connor either.
I will never play Greg Dortch. That's just a personal thing of mine. I can't tell you if he's a good player or a bad play. It's Greg Dortch. How DJ feels about Chuba Hubbard. I feel more strongly about Greg Dortch. I would go to Michael Wilson for sure. I still think he's a very talented player. He's big. He can get open. Kills man coverage. I think that's a good spot for him. But I do think Marvin Harrison is going to be a core play for me. So I'd rather just go all the way to him. And Trey Tucker, I've been kind of talking about him for a couple of years as like a sneaky upside guy in our preseason stuff that we talk about for season long. I think he's a stud. He's a very good route runner. He can catch a deep ball anytime. Like he can get it done many different ways. Catch a 3-yard slant. He can catch a 50-yard go route. I think Cleveland's corners are very beatable, especially how they're playing right now. I don't mind that. And for the sake of the price and me liking that game to go back and forth a little bit with Deshaun Watson and Cooper, he is going to be my bring back there. So he's my value guy, but he looks like he's going to be the value guy for everybody. I just don't see like a path to success using like Johnny Wilson down there, Ray McLeod. Like, okay, his ceiling.
No, thank you.
Points. Like Trey Tucker is the only guy, as much as I love fading chalk, Trey Tucker's the only guy in the threes that I could see like visibly having a 20-point game here. And if Deshaun Watson and Cooper do go off, they got to keep passing. Trey Tucker should have 8 to 10 targets. If that game's just a snail's pace, then my day sucks anyway, and I'll sleep at night just fine with that.
Yeah, the factor in a dome, no weather concerns. Minshew is competent. We'll talk about Brock Bowers in a second, but I don't think he burns you at 3,600. It's one of the safer plays on the board. He's obviously popping in your model for a reason. DJ, real quick with the talk in Arizona, if you don't go to Harrison, do you like one of these cheap guys? Are you playing the cheap tight end? What other cheap guys do you like?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, like I like both the cheap guys. I like Wilson and Dortch. I'm kind of a Dortch guy, so I'm opposite of Stix there. He's won me a lot of money. I like him, but I wrote up Elijah Higgins with Trey McBride out. Cheap tight end. And they haven't really had to. You haven't really had to focus on throwing it to the tight end too much when you play against Washington, but just for whatever reason, probably because you can just beat him through the air so bad. But he's only 3,100. He's a converted wide receiver. He's got a big body. He's going to be a red zone threat. He's already got 4 or 5 catches on the season. He's been involved in every single game, even with McBride there. And involved means running a few routes and catching a ball. So I guess there's a little bit of trust there, I guess, but he's going to step into an expanded role. He's super cheap and he's going against the worst defense in the league. Like, it sounds pretty good to me. I think you can stack Murray, like I said at the beginning of the show, like with 2 or 3 guys, because I think it's going to be hard for like at least 2 of them not to exceed value. But I like Higgins. I like Dortch. I like them all. As far as the other cheap guys go, Trey Tucker, I agree with. It's kind of a Yoshi spot like we had in week 1, and then Yoshi goes out and just starts rattling off touchdowns every week ever since. But Trey Tucker, 9 targets, almost 100 yards last week, almost 20 DK points. No Devontae Adams. Yeah, people are going to go back to him. It makes sense, 3,600. The Philly guys are the ones that I worry about the most. So Jahan Dotson, he's not necessarily cheap, nor is he necessarily good. And then you've got Johnny Wilson, who can – pay it off in one long catch and touchdown, but the dude's not going to go out there and catch 7 balls. I don't know how many times Jalen Hurts even throws it today. Like, I'm pretty concerned about that.
He's not that good at throwing either. That's the other problem. Like, he's not really that good at throwing the football.
Yeah, so I agree with like Trey Tucker is probably the best cheap guy down there. Yeah, I mean that's the cheap guy for sure. Other guys that I wrote up, you were talking Stix about putting either Diggs or Collins in every lineup. Not to put words in your mouth, I think that's what you said. I agree with that. I like Diggs a little bit more than Collins today, just a little bit more. Collins wide receiver 1, Diggs wide receiver 1.5, however you want to look at it. But in the matchup, Jaguars have been getting absolutely killed by the second guy, which I'm going to have to assume is Diggs today, dead last against wide receiver 2. So I'm going to assume Diggs is the wide receiver 2, and I'm going to give him the upgrade, and his price is way too cheap. He's going to have a good day. Other guys that I like at wide receiver before we move on to tight end, Allen Lazard. People have been talking up Allen Lazard all week. I do like him, though, because you're going to have Pat Surtain shadowing Garrett Wilson. He's going to take him out to some extent. You saw the chemistry wasn't exactly there. Aaron Rodgers said as much last week in the post-game interview, saying that they still need to get, paraphrasing, but still need to get on the same page. We know Lazard's on the same page. So he's going to be the first or second look almost the entire day for Aaron Rodgers. You do have Mike Williams, whose playing time has normalized. So that's a guy no one's going to play at all. That will have just as big of an opportunity, I guess, as Lazard. Lazard will probably get a few more passes coming his way, but Mike Williams is probably going to get more targets than he's gotten the entire season because he's hardly played. And now Garrett Wilson's going to be covered up. So do like Lazard. I think Mike Williams is a little bit sneaky in your giant million maker GPPs. And then the T. Higgins question you alluded to earlier, Jay. I do think you can go there now. Obviously, Chase is your dude there. He's going to be shadowed by J.C. Horn for a lot of the game. Can he still beat Horn? Yeah, he can. But it's just a better spot for T. Higgins going up against Troy Hill and Mike Jackson, kind of splitting that role with Yoshi and somewhat to Chase whenever he's not being shadowed by J.C. Horn. Now, Yoshi keeps scoring every week, but T. Higgins has been getting his snaps and routes back up, from being injured the first 2 or 3 games, whatever it was. So T. Higgins, I think, is a little bit sneaky going up against a really, really bad Panthers team. So those are pretty much my guys, right? Anyone else we want to talk about, Jay? Any more questions? Brain busters?
Nah, I'll ask you, Terry McLaurin. What are you doing with him?
I don't know. Like, if he fits, he fits. He's not a priority. I didn't write him up.
Yeah.
Okay.
So he'll probably go get 3 touchdowns today. Anything else, Stix, that you want to touch on here? Go on to tight ends.
It's my one fear, or maybe it's a good thing. Seems like we're all lockstep here. The slate seems to be kind of just pushing itself on everybody. There's really, I would love to try to get different. Chris Olave would have been that guy, but I'm not messing with it on the hamstring thing. So no, I think we go towards these higher total games and the upside wide receiver ones like Amari Cooper and Stephon Diggs that people aren't going to play as much of.
Chris Godwin, I like him too. Godwin.
I just fear the pace in that game. It's like if Philly's killing clock all day long, it's like Chris Godwin goes for 8 and 80, and it's like, okay, he's 6,800. That's about a fair price and a fair result. I need a little bit more than a fair result.
I like the way you think. Let's go over to tight ends. Let's start with Jay. Who are you looking at for tight end here? Give us 2 or 3 guys.
Yeah, tight end, the dude Higgins makes sense, at his price tag. If you're not going up, or even if you're paying up, He should be in a good spot against a pretty bad defense. Stix, I'll leave the Carolina guy for you because I know you're on him. You can go back to Brock Bowers. You can give Travis Kelce a shot. They're in the player pool. Zach Ertz in a revenge spot at 4K. If you're looking for not much upside, but a good floor in that Washington game, you're not going to Terry and you're not going to anybody else on the Washington side, I wouldn't double stack Washington. I would just try to pick one and go with Daniels or run one back, either Brian Robinson and Ertz or McLaurin. So he's in play. Freiermuth, I bet in the prop market. I think he's viable for DFS. I'm not playing more than one Pittsburgh guy, so it's either you're playing George Pickens, Freiermuth, or Najee Harris. I wouldn't add a second player. I don't think this game shoots out, but I think there's value if you hit the right one. So for me, it's probably the kid, in Arizona and Higgins at 3,100. I'm not too worried about that. I think Tyler Conklin's sneaky if you're not playing another Jet. At 3,600, wouldn't be shocked he gets in the end zone. It's either Lazard or Conklin if I'm going for value in the Jet game. And then Dallas Goedert, man, at 5,100. I'm probably not getting to this Philly game, but, Stix was calling him Frenchman last week. If you had him, you had Jennings and Rome. Stix was on Goddard. He was on Rome. Just was missing Jennings. I had Jennings in some lineups. I was missing Goddard, had Rome because Stix was all over it. Goddard is still in play, man. At 5,100, he's the last man standing. I don't know what Tampa does to try to stop him, but he's going to be peppered. So I think he's in play at 5,100. And you can go back to Bowers, man. Like we all loved him last week. We all hate him this week just because he had a bad week last week. So I think Bowers at 5,600 in play. And then the kid Strange for Jacksonville. If you need another punt, 3,100. He's in play as well.
Who's your favorite tight end on the board?
Favorite tight end on the board? Putting me on the spot. You calling me brain teasers?
That's what you gotta do. I mean, that's
yeah. Favorite one. Who goes off?
So, like, who's your favorite top tier guy? But you got your Kelce and your Bowers and your favorite like cheap guy between like your Higgins and your Strange and all that.
I would say top tier right now. Goddard's probably the safest at 5,100, and then low side. As far as like the value spot, I probably just go to Higgins because I like that game.
I agree with the Higgins call. Stix, did I hear you make a noise or you muted or what?
We can't go back to Goddard, guys. That was
Why?
last week. It's last week. That game's going to have no pace. He's probably going to have to block a lot too. I think him and Grant Calcaterra are run a lot of 12 formation today and just block their ass off. And otherwise, I think he's like a 4 for 48 type of guy today. Probably scores.
I gotta trust you because you were on it last week. You're off for this week, so you're probably right. I'm probably wrong.
20% ownership I'm seeing on Goddard. I don't know what source you guys have in front of you, but that's crazy.
Yeah,
you can't do that.
Okay. Cash game Goddard.
I think him or Ertz or going down to like Higgins or that Brenton Strange guy. I think that's probably where you go. Yeah, for cash, I think that's fine. But he's the same player as Zach Ertz. Zach Ertz is 1,100 less. Zach Ertz probably fits the cash game mold a little bit more.
Okay. Well, I am on Higgins as my top value guy. I think I talked about him already a little bit, right? So you can rewind the show, but that's my top guy, 3,100. As far as saving salary, I think Trimble's interesting down there too for Carolina, but I don't like him over Higgins. I just think he's a little bit interesting. My top spend-up guy, I had it as Travis Kelce, but game script scares me slightly there. Like Herbert even getting pulled if they're just getting their ass kicked so bad. But maybe it's a good opportunity to get Kelce going if they even want to do that. Like you don't really need to do that. You just kind of want him healthy for the playoffs. But I don't think he's completely dead and gone. I know he's had a terrible start to the season, but I don't know. Chargers are one of those teams that he just kind of runs all over. Career stats: 100 receptions, 1,200 yards, 8 touchdowns, 5,800, coming in 3% owned. Like I don't know.
Yes,
it's a good shot to take on a 3% owned Kelce. Terrible matchup. You into that, Nick?
That is my favorite player to get different because I'm eating chalk pretty much everywhere else besides Amari and Deshaun. The Chargers play a ton of cover 2, which is pretty wild to see in 2024. They also play a lot of cover 3. Like that is what Travis Kelce does. There's no Derwin James. He is suspended. I believe Joey Bosa is out as well. Like, this should be a really, really good spot. Like, okay, you say the ceiling game. I definitely hear you on that. But the ceiling game that we're used to seeing with Travis Kelce is when we're paying $7,500 for Travis Kelce.
Yeah.
If we get him and Brock Bowers probably the top two plays on the slate at this position. I don't really think anybody else, unless it's like a crazy, weird 3-touchdown game for someone down low, has a floor of 16 points other than Bowers or Kelce. So I do think Kelce is probably the best play in tournaments, and Bowers probably in cash if you're paying up. But yeah, with no Derwin James, even when he was playing, Kelce just ate his lunch. So I'm all about it. And I've mentioned it on the podcast, but all he does is do commercials now. He's in LA. Like, all his donors are going to be out there. You know, all the Pfizer execs making him do these commercials are probably in the stands. Like, he's got to show out for his boys finally. Like, there's got to be one game. It's in LA in the Dome for Hollywood. And then he'll go out and party and shoot some more commercials tonight. I'm all for it. Just have a big game today, Travis.
Yeah, I kind of shifted Bowers ahead of him with the Adams news, but yeah,
I think that's safer. It is. Like, Bowers has life. He has legs. He seems interested in kicking ass on the football field. We haven't seen that out of Travis Kelce. So yeah, that's a coin flip. I'll just chase the ownership in my little Hollywood narrative I'm telling myself about Travis Kelce.
Yeah, Bowers was probably up all night too, wiping the tears away after watching
Oh God!
murdered. Anything else on tight end? You guys want to recap this thing, get out of here, answer some questions, build some lineups?
Don't hate Freiermuth for 3,900. On paper, the coverage should be a really good spot there, but I think if you're just going down, you're going to Higgins or Strange for Jacksonville. And then Tommy Tremble, it is what it is. I think Jay and I got on his reception prop pretty early, and that's probably the only exposure I want on Tommy Tremble.
We haven't mentioned an Atlanta Falcon or a New Orleans Saint the entire show.
I was about to. Falcons D, man. My favorite cheap D.
Same.
I like the Falcons D. We haven't got news on Olave yet.
He's good to go.
He's good to go. Yeah. So he's definitely hampered, though. Like, if Olave's hampered, it's an in-division game. Atlanta's at home. They're 2,600. They don't get so much pressure, but the game's a low scoring. And it's, as much as I think Carr and Kamara are, they're good professional quarterbacks and running backs, I do think Atlanta steps up in this game. I think they're the best cheap defense out there.
Yeah, we need to win. Falcons need to win. We have the easiest schedule on paper before the season, yet we already played the Eagles, the Chiefs, and the super hot New Orleans Saints. So that's great. And Tampa looks good too. That's all bullshit. Hey, let's go back and talk about our favorite quarterback, running back, wide receiver, tight end. You get one or two guys to mention at each position. I'll go Stix, Jay, then myself. Who's going to win the slate for us today? Stix, who you got at QB?
I'm wearing brown. Brown down. Deshaun Watson. Dude, Andy Dalton just carved these guys up, and now I'm crazy for saying that Deshaun Watson's in a good spot. I don't get it. And David Njoku, I think, is back too. So,
all right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Njoku, I don't know that isn't. I think Njoku's out, but I'm not really sure that really matters. But I'll go with Jaden Daniels. I think the rushing upside is there. He proved to me last week that he can go out there and do his thing. So give me 20 plus and hopefully a rushing touchdown. And Daniel gets you, 20 to 25 at 6,500.
All right, you guys are making it easy for me. I mean, I'm obviously just going to take Kyler Murray, but that's obvious. So if you want someone a little less obvious, I think Joe Burrow is worth a GPP dart. So Joe Burrow. But I like Kyler more. I like Daniels a little bit more. I do not like Watson more, but Stix has been hitting these weird plays. So, yeah, those are our guys. Running backs, let's go to Stix. One or two guys.
Najee Harris and Breece Hall.
I'll go Aaron Jones and James Conner.
Guys. I'm taking Aaron Jones too. So
can you go B-Rob to make me feel good about myself on that one?
I like B-Rob. I wrote him up again I listed him in the article Sunday Morning Update that I do like him. I mean, the only guys that I have on this list are B-Rob, Barkley, which you talked me off of a little bit, or I guess just us talking about it and me confirming my own reservations with it on this show because it's It's going to be tough. He's going to touch the ball a lot. Look, I'm taking Aaron Jones, Jordan Mason. Jones and Mason. I do like B-Rob, though. I do kind of also like Moss, but I only get 2. Wide receiver, let's go over to Stix.
Amari Cooper and Marvin Harrison Jr. We already know our Texans rule for the day.
Okay. Jay.
All right. Wide receiver. I'm gonna go with my 2 favorite props here, and hopefully they pan out. I'm not playing him for DFS, but I think Leggett goes over his prop total. I got it at 31.5. I think it's still safe at 35.5. And then this is kind of a blend between me and Stix. I'm going to go with George Pickens. He's more DFS viable. I think he's clear-cut number 1. If Justin Fields finds a way to throw for 200 yards, I think, Pickens goes over 100 with a touchdown or 2. It's kind of like his coming out party, like officially. So I'm going to be Pickens for DFS, and let's go Leggett just for prop markets.
Okay. If we're going to avoid the Texans rule, then I'll avoid it. But Stephon Diggs would be my favorite guy there. Guys that I wrote up that I'm interested in, y'all are scaring me on Deontay Johnson, or not you, Jay. You're scaring me, Nick. I won't say Marvin Harrison Jr. because that's been established already. That's no fun. I think Allen Lazard scores. I don't know that the volume's going to be there, but I think he scores, so that makes sense at the price.
Give us a weird one.
I know. I mean, I guess it's
Greg
T.
Dortch.
Higgins is weird enough, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
T. Higgins.
So I'll take T. Higgins and Lazard. I think those are both relatively odd. I could see Yoshi doing it too. Guy just keeps scoring, but it's like 2 touchdowns and 3 yards on 2 catches. T. Higgins scores. Let's go over to tight end. Stick. Who you got?
Kelsey.
Who you got?
5,800. I have to. I've never seen that price. I have to buy, and if it's not now, it's never. Then I'll be done forever.
And I'll say this to all the listeners, man. If you think you're not getting exposure to a player, like I have really no Travis Kelce exposure, but when I saw Stix likes him, I went over to the prop market. Like I feel a lot safer putting whatever I want to put on a lineup on Kelce over 45.5 receiving yards than having him in my lineup. So like I'm punting tight end. I'm gonna go Higgins or Hurts. I just like that game as my top game. So that's where I'll play them. But if you can't get to Aaron Jones in your lineup just for whatever reason, and you're in a legal state or you can find a way to bet it, however you bet it on Prize Picks or Underdog, or if you're lucky enough to be in Atlanta, you can play these pick 6 games on DraftKings like Dave keeps on sending me. Like just go in a pick 6 and put a over-under on Travis Kelce at 46.5 yards. I like the Kelce play more in a prop market. I think he can pay out for DFS. There's going to be a time. I don't think it's because of the commercials. I think Mahomes is that guy that can get anybody the ball at any time. So, like, it's been 4 weeks. All right, let's get Kelce a touchdown. Let's get him 80 yards or whatever the case may be. So I think, it's going to happen one of these days. Like, he's definitely open. Like, I've seen him open, and he's like, let's wait for an extra 10 yards to get to Rashee Rice. Yeah. So Mahomes is making a point out of it, so he can flip it over very easily to Kelce. But I like him more in the prop market, so I'm going to go cheap, Higgins or Zach Ertz in that game.
Okay, Stix. I wrote this down. You were talking about Travis Kelce. You said, "If it's not now, then never, and I'll be done forever." Is that a Taylor Swift lyric?
I don't know. I didn't even mean it. I'm telling you, dude, I'm sick. Something I'm not right in the head, but that does sound like a good lyric. We should make a song.
If it's not now, then never, and I'll be done.
That's the intro to the Stix podcast. Moving forward.
It's like an old folk song.
Sounded good, man. I'm going with Elijah Higgins is my cheap tight end. Wrote up Kelce too. Obviously love him, but I do think Brock Bowers gets the volume today. So Brock Bowers is a good tight end to have. We did it. 4 minutes to spare, 7 minutes late. Really jammed it in there today. Hey, if you guys want to go over to windailysports.com, use promo code SICKO, 50% off. Jay, I still have to talk to you about discontinuing 50% off promo codes because it's too much and we're giving it away. So do it today, and I'm going to call Jay and try and get those dropped because it's too much. It's too much.
Stix, want to answer this question quick? Need a wide receiver and a flex. JSN, Shaheed, Jennings, Wilson, or Piron?
I was going to type it out. JSN, I think, is a lock for me. I think that game's tomorrow night, right? That is going to be an absolute blast of it. I think that's probably one of the best games of the year so far.
Yep.
I think I'd lead Rashid Shaheed. I know he was a complete letdown last week, and that's what we're going to get with a guy like that. But Juwan Jennings, I'm probably out. I don't want to chase those points with Debo back and Kittle back. Like, this is a much different situation than it was last week. Or Michael Wilson. I'm not playing P. Ryan. Best cash defense on DraftKings. I think I'm with Jay. I like the Dirty Birds at 2,600. I really like the Bears at 3,100. I really do. I think the Rams overperformed last week, and the Bears at home. It's windy.
It's the 49ers is the answer.
Yeah, if you can get to.
I mean, they just got beat by the Rams. They're going to show up. Team's healthy. They're going up against New England, who couldn't score a touchdown last game. It's in San Francisco. 49ers are the best cash game.
I just don't pay up for defense ever.
I do. I don't mind. I don't understand. Like,
guaranteed points, right? Just take it.
Yeah. Like, I don't know. People always try and like spin down, and then I don't know. Sometimes it works. Sometimes it doesn't. It's a defense. Who cares? That's why
I love them both here. I'd go Cooper. I think Amari has a field day.
I bet Watson has a field day in Vegas after the game.
As long as it's after the game and not last night or this morning or what. All right, let's end the show on that.
All right, cool. All right, if it's not now, then never, and we'll be done forever. That is me, David Jones, Jason Mizrahi, Stix Picks. Go over to the premium Discord. Check us out later. Appreciate you watching someone in the show. Bye.